go there. Tonight's show is quite a nice one, actually, because this is a roundup of all the stuff that we've done. You remember the first show we did was on the Data Protection Act, right? And what was really nice, because you can get all your data, your personal data from organisations, corporations, governments, if you write to them under this act. And loads of people wrote in and said, oh, I'm trying to get my data from this person, I'm trying to get my data from that person. And my favourites were, David Shaler has applied to the Home Office for his data. Which is going to be great, because there's bound to be one in there going, that treacherous bastard. But my other favourite one, we got this lovely email from this bloke, this little kid. He said, I'm 8 years old and I've just requested my personal data from my school. But also you can get your images on CCTV cameras. And we're running a competition for the best CCTV footage. And Jonathan Ross is actually has said he'll judge it. Comfortable. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to judging the CCTV competition.
Okay, hold on to that. Hold on to that side. We'll jump together. Okay, ready? Okay. Oh, sorry, I was doing the kind of jam version.
Oh, you're a selfish lover.
Fancy a
glass of champagne somewhere?
I think well, I fancy discussing Chomsky down at Groucho's.
Always good for a bit of Chomsky.
There's 5 ex-miners who came down to London, it was about 2 weeks ago, and did the full Monty in front of the Bank of England. They've requested the footage. They've gone for it. It's fantastic. But also, we got this little email from a bloke who said, I'm an art student and I've decided I'm going to, for my final year dissertation, I'm doing the Threepenny Opera on CCTV. My favourite one, I got asked to go on Loose Ends, you know, this Radio 4 thing with Ned Sherrin. So they recorded it in front of an audience, and what I did was, before the audience went in, I grabbed these 6 sort of middle-aged women from Leeds who were down for London for the weekend. So what I did was 4 of them, I gave them sombreros and big guns, right? And 2 of them I gave little hats and revolvers. And you know the BBC building, the broadcasting house with big fucking doors? We reenacted the last scene from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And if you've got entries, send them in. The second programme we did was on the MEP's interests, the Register of MEP's interests. Basically, the only record that's kept is in these rooms, one in Brussels, one in Strasbourg. You have to book an appointment to get there. It's all handwritten. You can't photograph, you can't photocopy. You have to sit there and write everything out. 3 people went in there for 3 days, copied the whole thing, bunged it up on the internet and said, oh, bollocks. And what happened was, we got this letter from Glyn Ford, MEP, Labour, who said... it's from his solicitor. Said, you have damaged my reputation by putting up misleading information on your internet site. He said, yeah? He said, I am in fact a columnist, and you put I was in fact a communist. So we had to take the site down and sort of double-check that all the... Because, you know, they're all handwritten and they're very difficult to read. In fact, what we did was, just to prove how difficult they are, Duncan from the team went over there the other day and spent 2 days in this office, and he got there and it was the same woman who was in there when we had the team and when we were fucking about. And he walked in and she just went, I recognise you. Where are you from? He said, Channel 4. Vera Productions, isn't it? I said, yes. There is no photocopying. There is no trickery at all. You just write it down. And so Duncan had to sit there, poor bloke sitting there. He was at this desk writing everything down. And he said, I could just feel her looking at the back of my head. And you know those little scanners? You can get those little scanners that you just whiz across paper and it takes it all in. He had one of those in his pocket. He said it was dreadful. He said, I was in there for 2 days, he said. But she slipped out for sort of 15 minutes and Duncan was like, scanner. And then he dashed out. He said it was like Escape to Victory. It was fantastic. And can we show the example of the MEP's handwriting? Look at the fucking state of that. What is that? There are doctors sitting there going, that is outrageous. Look, he's decided to do a fucking drawing here. Look. We said, we want to put the site back up. If we email every single MEP and say, this is what we've got, can you correct it, and send it back, is that all right? And they've started replying, so we're getting the site back up. That's the first good news. The second good news, one of the people who appeared in the film was a Tory MEP called Roger Helmer, and we asked him to put plastic animals into his mouth, which was a cat, a cockerel, and a hare. Can you spot the Freudian imagery? And this is from a Conservative MEP who said all the information is correct. P.S. The piece where you called out Roger Helmer, my Tory colleague in the East Mids, was very funny. Shame he didn't use the cockerel first. This is another one from another Tory. Dear Mr. Thomas, I very much enjoy your show, particularly the excellent stitching up of Meacher. And of course, who could forget Roger Helmer sucking that cock? That's what he says, man. Check it out. We started looking up what they were saying in the European Parliament about what we've done. This is from Richard Balfe. He said, Madam President, I also regret that a British comedy programme sought to make light of the Parliament. I think the sooner this is on the internet, the better. Hooray! And that's what they're doing. They're going to put it on the internet. So, hooray, we win! The third show we did was about Mr. Meacher. And it's great, actually. It's fucking lovely. Because my mum came round the other day and said, look, have you seen the front of the Daily Mail? It's all about Keith Vaz having all these houses. And it says, and the front page of the Mail, it just says, Vaz has got 5 houses and believed to be second only to the Environment Minister, Michael 8 Holmes Meacher. And what was lovely as well, because Channel 4 run this political award thing where they get all these politicians down, and all the Channel 4 executives go down, they meet all these politicians, and basically they polish corporate cock. And they sort of, Channel 4 are down there going, if you do privatise us, there will be share options, won't there? So, apparently Jon Snow walked on stage and just said, Michael Meacher will be dropping in later on to pick up the rent. So... And you just think, fantastic, that's his defining characteristic. Meanwhile, back in Oldham, it all kicked off in Michael Meacher's constituency. And a guy called Dave Hibbert, who is the leader of the Labour Council, had this thing quoted in the Oldham Chronicle. And he says, Michael Meacher told me and asked me to make it clear to his constituents that he has 3 properties. One in the Cotswolds, left to him by a family member, a house in Chatterton for the overnight stays, and a house in London. He then goes on to say he has simply invested in 2 properties in Wimbledon. So we thought, all right. So I gave him a call and said, you checked that with Mr. Meacher? Yes. And you stand by it? Yes, I do. Within a space of a few short hours, the phone rang again. Hello? Well, you know, I said I was going to stand by it. I am retracting some of it, and I'm going to publish a correction in the Oldham Chronicle. Oh, really? Which bits are you retracting? Well, you know, I said the house in the Cotswolds was left to him by a family member. Yes, you mean the house that was 4 workers' houses put together in one, has a swimming pool, but the tennis court application was rejected? Yes.